Alright, welcome back. So in my last video I covered typecasting. So I introduced his, where I made a really simple superclass with a couple of subclasses. Then I created an array. Then I did some work showing you how to use the is operator for type checking. And then I introduced the optional form of downcasting using as ? So again, that is a conditional form, so it returns an optional. So we can safely unwrap or recast a value or an instance as a different type. So in this video, what I wanted to do was go into as bang or force unwrapping an instance into another class and whatnot. Alright, so the example that I wanted to do was to actually bring in Jason. So if you, like, say, have an app where it reaches out to an API, and the API should respond with data that you can use. In most cases, data comes in as JSON. And so if you want to follow along, what you can do is you can go to DarkSky.net, and this is actually a really great API. It is free, up to I think 1,000 calls. So if you go down here to DarkSky API, you can sign up. Sign up is really easy. All they ask is for your email and your password, and you get 1,000 forecasts per day for free. So if you want to follow along, definitely do so. And then when you sign up, it should give you like a link that you can automatically click as soon as you open it up, that you can see the data that comes in. And so I've already done that. It's not too hard, but if you do have problems with it, definitely ping me if you need to, but it's pretty easy. Alright, so, or you can get JSON, whatever JSON, data that you have access to or whatnot. So I've already copied that in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create a file. So I'm going to paste it here. And it's not too pretty. And again, if you really want to see how your data will look, another thing you can do is you can go to JSON pretty print. And if you open that up, you can basically just paste your JSON in there, hit the button, pretty print JSON, and it will output your JSON in a really nice, neat little fashion so you can see how the data is organized, which is important when we begin to work with it. And I like to see this because there's certain things that I want to see. Alright, so we have that. So I'm going again to create my file. So I'm just gonna, I use Text Wrangler. It's, I believe, also free as well. It's pretty awesome. I like it. Again, just use whatever text editor suits your fancy. I'm just going to save it. I'm going to save as, and I'm going to save this as weather.json. And then I'm just going to just pop it in my desktop. Okay, so there we go. I have it in my desktop ready to go. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pop this into my playground. So just drop it under resources, and we should see our JSON right here. So there we go. There's our JSON. And again, it's not pretty, but when we work with it, we don't need to see how pretty it is or not. But again, if you do want to see how it's broken out, go to that jasonprettyprint.com. Alright, so let's play with as bang, which is, again, force unwraps. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to bring in the data from this file. So let's go ahead and create a constant. I'm going to call this constant file URL because I have to tell Playground where the data is located. We'll actually have to let Playground know, hey, you have a file, even though we know we have a file. In order to work with it, we got to let Playground know. So I'm going to use bundle. Again, if any of this doesn't make sense, hold down the Option key, hover over, and look it up. So basically, bundle is a class of NS object. It helps us access code and resources in a bundled directory on disk, or in this case, this is within Playground itself. You can just read info about it. I'm not going to go into it, but definitely if you have a question about it, read the documentation. I'm just letting it know that, hey, I have a file that I want you to look at, and its URL or its file location is here. So I'm going to do main URL for resource, and the resource is weather, so that's the name of my file is weather, and its extension is Jason, as up here. And so see, it realizes, oh, I have a file right here. Okay, great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the data out of this file. So I'm going to let weather forecast data equal, I'm going to do NS data. And again, if you're not sure what any of this is a class. What we can do is we hold down the Option key, and we can look at what NS data is. So it is an NS object, NS data, and its mutable subclass, and mutable data provide data objects, object-oriented wrappers for byte buffers. So it just pulls the data out for us, and so we can use it. So I'm going to tell it where it can find this data. So I'm going to do contents of URL, because up here, my file URL, if I hold down the Option key, this is URL. I'm going to tell it, hey, this is where you can find the file and pull the contents out of it. So I'm going to do file URL, and I'm going to force unwrap it. All right, so we have data here. It's not really pretty, but it knows that there's something there. All right, so we brought in the data. So in order for me to work with Jason, what I need to do is using, as bang, again, force unwraps the whatever you're working with. And because, I know that the data there is good. Sometimes you don't know that. So what I'm going to do in order to catch any possible errors that might occur, I'm going to use a do catch block. Basically, if something fails and if I downcast this with force and it fails, I have a fail-safe. So that's what I mean is if I don't use do catch, if it fails, it will crash horribly. All right, and you can definitely play around with this. Comment out things to see what horrible mess you can cause. I highly recommend you do that so you can see, okay, what does this do? So I have a slight warning here because I haven't added anything to it. So I'm going to add my questionable code right after the do, and then I'm going to, if anything happens, I'm going to have catch print out what the error might be. So I'm going to do print, and I'm going to say there was an error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sterilize the JSON. So I'm just going to say sterilize JSON. And this is what you need to print, which is just error. Again, if you're not sure what any of this means, definitely hold down the Option key, click over error, and let error is error. So basically, if there's any error, it will insert it here so that we can see it when it prints out. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to convert this data here that we have into JSON. Because right now it doesn't know. I mean, I know, you know, but the computer doesn't know. So we have to tell it, okay, let's make this data useful. So I'm going to create a constant called letJSON. And I'm going to try to sterilize the data coming in. So I'm going to use JSON sterilization. And again, if you have any questions, hold down the Option key and hover over. It is a class of NS object. Basically what it tries to do is convert JSON to foundation objects and convert foundation objects to JSON. Oh, just really quickly, I don't know, I think I had UI kit up here, import UI kit. Just change that to import foundation. It might work, but if you get any errors, that I just want to let you know that I did change that. All right, let's jump back in. So I'm going to use this class. I'm going to say, hey, I need you to do some work here. So there's plenty of options here that I can use, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this one here because I have data coming in. So I'm going to do JSON object with data, and then it'll give me some options. So the data is my weather forecast data up here variable. So copy that down, paste it right here. And then we have some options on how to return this. So there's plenty of different options, and I'll just go through it just really quickly. So I'll do JSON sterilization dot reading options dot, and then we have different reading options. I'm going to choose allow fragments. Again, if you have any questions, again, hold down that little option key and hover over. So this is a struct called reading options. And if we go here, we can find out more about it. So here are the structure options that we have. We can do allow fragments, which specifies a parser should allow top-level objects that are not instance of NS array or NS dictionary. So this coming in isn't an array or a dictionary, it's just JSON. But if you remember looking at the pretty print, it kind of does look like a dictionary. So that's what I'm going to use to pull out data here is I'm going to typecast it to NS dictionary. But I want it to just pull in and try to make it readable for us to do work. Okay. All right, so I have force unwrapped the file data, and I have typecasted as data. Actually, wait. Yes. So I'm bringing it in. I'm sterilizing it. Actually, what I forgot to do is I have a wonderful error, and I know why, because I need to typecast it as data. So I have this horrible error here. What I'm going to do is what I want to say is this. I'm going to typecast this saying, yes, this is data. So just to be sure. Okay. And now we have this. We see our JSON coming in here, which is awesome. All right, so now that we have pulled the data out of the file, we have sterilized it, saying, please try to sterilize this. Then I force unwrapped and typecasted the data that came in as data. So there we go. There's one example of using the as for force unwrapping. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to force unwrap it again, but this time I want to typecast it as a dictionary containing strings. So I'm going to do force unwrap and typecast the JSON to a dictionary, so type dictionary. If I know how to spell dictionary, okay, as a type string. All right, so let's look again at our where did it go? Pretty print. So let's take something really easy. Let's do time zone. So let's do if. Actually, just really quickly, I wanted to show you if there is errors in here, that this will actually work. So say for example, I'm just going to scroll down here and I'm going to just put some mumbo jumbo in this file. So this is not JSON at all. Let's see what happens to our file. All right, so we did get an error. And here it says there was an error sterilizing Jason. And the error is garbage at end. So you see it does work. So I'm going to go back into that file and remove what I did here, so we don't get that error. Save, and that should remove that. Right, so we don't have our error anymore. All right, so let's go ahead and force unwrap and typecast the JSON that came in as a dictionary. So I'm going to do if let time zone, so I'm going to do time zones, equal, and I'm going to do JSON as, so I'm going to force unwrap JSON and say typecast this as NS dictionary, because I feel like it looks like a dictionary. And then when you do that, I want you to pull out the key time zone, and then I want you to see if this is a string, and if so, go ahead and print it out. Let's see what happens. All right, so there we go. We have America, Los Angeles. That is the time zone, which is pretty cool. So another thing you can do is you also provides special type aliases for working with non-specific types, which is any object. So we have any object and any. So with any, what that allows you to do is basically any can represent an instance of any type at all, including function types, whereas any object can represent an instance of any class type. So if you're not sure what class it might be, you can use any or any object only when you explicitly need this type of behavior. It's better if you know what you want to typecast to, but there might be instances where that you have non-specific types and you just need to use this. So I'm just going to introduce this. If you want to look at an example of any, I definitely recommend going to the Swift programming language book and looking at the really great example for any. I didn't see an example for any object, so that's what I'm going to focus on. All right, so I can use any object as well to pull out data for my forecast here. Okay, so in this case, I am receiving a dictionary of a type of any object because I haven't specified JSON at this point. It's just JSON, and here I've said, okay, JSON is a dictionary, but that's all we know. So we have to tell it, okay, well, we can say that everything in this dictionary is of some type, and we're going to assume that it's a string. So I'll show you what I mean. Oops. So let's go down here. Let's do another if-let statement. I'm going to do if-let hourly forecast. Okay, so just really quickly, I wanted to show you, just looking at the, oopsie, not what I want. I'm going to close this out. Oh, there it is. All right, so I am looking at see how latitude, longitude, time zone. All right, what do I want to look at? There we go. So I'm looking at hourly. What I want is the hourly forecast, but I want the summary. So if you see here, it's here's a key, and then within this key, there's another dictionary. So this key here, so we have a dictionary and a dictionary. So what I want to do is I want to go into the key hourly, then pull the summary here and display what the summary is. So I have to go down 2 layers. All right, so I want the hourly forecast summary. So I'm going to do hourly forecast, and I'm going to do exactly what I did above. Do Jason as, I'm going to force, I'm going to type, downcast it to NS dictionary, like I did above. This time, what I want to do is I want to pull the key hourly. Is that right? Yes, hourly. And then what I want to do is I want to pull what's in the hourly key and say it's string any object. Okay. And we have no errors, which is great. And so now I want to go 1 layer down. And since I have converted JSON, forcibly converted JSON into an NS dictionary, and then I also converted everything inside of that key to a string. So now what I'm going to do is I can just act like this is any other dictionary and pull out the data I want. So I want the daily summary. I'm going to do hourly forecast. I'm going to say I want the summary. And then I'm going to say this is possibly a string. And if so, print out the daily daily summary. All right, so there's our daily summary. Foggy tomorrow morning. All right, so that's one example. So I want to give you another example of doing this where you don't have to use the if-let. We can actually pull the data out of JSON and then insert it into a variable that is of type string. So I'm going to do var. I'm going to do let's see here. Let's look at my JSON, see what I want to pull out. Let's take a look here. Let's do currently. That sounds like fun. Do currently and then summary. All right. So here I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to do currently summary so that I know what I'm pulling, remember what I'm pulling. And this is going to be a type string. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do guard let. And I'm going to do currently, or current equal. Again, I'm going to pull my JSON and forcibly make it a dictionary. Typecast it as a dictionary with force. And I want it to pull out the current key and make that everything inside of that key of string any object. Oops. And then what I also wanted to do is let for summary equal my current. So now that current is a dictionary. Say, hey, current, pull out summary as string. Else, if it isn't, return an error. So return error. Otherwise, return for summary. So if it fails, what it'll do is it will return an error. Otherwise, it will return what comes out. Let's see if I did that right. So currently, summary, yeah. Let's print out our new variable here and see what it is. Oh, so we got an error. What did I do wrong? Oh, I think I misspelled currently. Nope, still an error. Let's see. Currently, yep, I misspelled it. Now it should work. There we go, partly cloudy. So yeah, be careful about, your spelling. So there we go. Hopefully this has been informative for you. But again, I hope it also reiterates how treacherous force unwrapping and forcibly typecasting in instances are. But hopefully that makes sense. This is, I think, the best way I got to play around with it is just using something that's kind of similar to real life, at least in a way. So I, again, covered using as and forcibly unwrapping it, and then typecasting it to a dictionary, and then optionally or conditionally returning what was inside that dictionary as a string so that it could be used. And then if you, again, if you hold down the option key and you look at this variable here that I created is of type string, so I was able to successfully pull this data from an API, convert it to JSON. So pulled the data from API, converted that data. So here I referenced the file, I pulled the file contents out as data, and then I said, hey, Playground, this is JSON, so sterilize it. And then we took that JSON, and then we said, okay, its contents look like a dictionary, so I want you to forcibly become a dictionary. We want to downcast this as a dictionary. And then, took the strings, or took the objects inside of these dictionaries and said, hey, if you are a string, output this. Or in this case, we actually, I should say, made that information an actual string. So there you go. Again, if you found this video helpful at all, give it a thumbs up. If you want to catch my, latest and greatest videos, subscribe. Till next time, my friends, code on.